I didn't have any money in the Voyager app, and really I closed my Voyager app on June 27th, withdrawing all of my money out back on June 23rd. So I'm not really impacted by all of this because I saw the warning signs. Now, with that said, folks, when it comes to the news that was dropped on us this morning, Voyager is filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And what does that mean? Well, it means that they'll be able to file bankruptcy and continue to operate. Now, my inbox has been flooded with people telling me that they've lost their life savings and all this horrible stuff. And I've seen a lot. I've been kind of following and staying in tune with what's going on with the Reddit scene. There's a lot of people talking a lot of dark stuff, suicidal stuff like that. So really, I've lost everything in the past, financially and health-wise, physically. I have lost it all. And a lot of people right now, when you are talking about the Voyager situation, are on this teetering edge where they might lose it all. We don't know how much you're going to lose just yet. But from the press release, it made it sound like all of the liquidity they have is going to be by a court. The holders will get X. The users will get X. The creditors and debitors will get an X amount. There's just so much we still don't know about this situation. And really, when it comes to, like I said, losing everything financially and physically, I've been there, done that. So let me tell you guys that it does get better. It's going to take time, and it's not going to happen overnight. It's possibly going to take you a while to rebuild and strengthen your positions, things like that. And so let me just tell you guys a little story about what I went through, because I know exactly what a lot of people are going through at this point in time right now. This is my car, my poor crashed up car that I was driving. I'm so thankful I wore my seatbelt. I'm so thankful nobody else was in this car with me. I was driving to work one day, and I was going in the other lane. There was a traffic jam, and there was this guy driving this huge van coming towards me who didn't see the backed up traffic because he was eating a Subway sandwich. And I am very anti-distracted driving, folks, because of this. And this happened to me back in like 2011. So this is 10, 11, 12 years ago that I lost everything, and I suffered greatly for years. So instead of swerving into the right side ditch, this guy decided to swerve into oncoming traffic. I was the lucky car that hit this van head on at 60 miles an hour. Now, let me tell you guys about my story a little bit more, and then we'll kind of get into the financial side of things and what I went through. And there might be some things like this that you will go through as well. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not, anything like that. So if you need to consult a lawyer or financial advisor, look somewhere else. After the accident, I vividly remember kind of lifting my head off the airbag. I was knocked out cold. I don't know for how long. But when I woke up, this entire engine compartment was completely smoking, bellowing smoke. And I had no idea where I was. I had a concussion that was severe, and I couldn't get my door open. So you can see that this door was basically crushed shut, and I couldn't escape my car. My legs were broken, my back was broken, everything was broken, and I could hardly move. And so what ended up happening was, you guys have all seen how NASCAR drivers hop in and out of cars. That was my only option. Luckily, this window had broken and there was no glass there, so I was able to climb out that window. I sat my butt right up here with my legs sitting inside, and I held on to the top of this door. And this is going to lead into a very important part of my story, because I was all alone during this point in time, and I sat here while there was backed up traffic, not only in one direction, but both directions. I sat on the edge of this door for like what seemed like an eternity. Not a single person got out of their car to come help me get out of my car. I could have cried. And my only option was to let go of this top part of the door. And I remember falling back onto my back and kind of hitting the ground. So I hit the ground, my legs were up, I hit the ground. Somehow I was able to turn my body back over, and I started crawling away from the car. So here I am crawling down the shoulder of a highway, on my elbows. Still, not a single person got out of their car to help me. I climbed into the ditch because I thought this car was going to start on fire. And then I thought maybe I'll get hit by another car on the roadway as well. There still wasn't one person after like 10, 15 minutes that even got out of their car to come and see if I was okay or to help me. When the car crashed, my cell phone was sitting on the passenger seat, and it got lost somewhere in the wreckage. I couldn't even dial 911. I couldn't call anybody for help, do nothing. I was completely dependent on the community that eventually just let me down by not even helping. So then I'm laying in these tall cattails in the ditch for 15 minutes at least. The town I was in had a volunteer firefighter department. So it takes them, and this is rural country, so it takes them a while to respond to that fire department, get their trucks, and then drive to the scene of the crash. And the biggest thing for me, like I said, I'm laying here. I can't contact anybody. Finally, I hear somebody's voice, and somebody had parked on the frontage road that was right next to the highway. And he said something to me, and I, dazed and confused, kind of responded. I don't know what I said to him. And he goes, "Holy shit, you are still alive. I cannot believe this." And I thought he thought I was dead. Before I could get another word out, this guy turned around, hopped back in his car, and drove off. And here I am again, still, folks, hurting, like the world is going to end for me. This is me. I was going to school to be a police officer at the time. I worked for a police department. This is my leg. Some of the aftermath pictures of this accident. Finally, one of the cops on his way to a shift saw the accident, finally stopped and helped me. And then shortly after, he was able to go find my cell phone in the car. And so paramedics got me onto a stretcher and loaded me into the back of the ambulance. I had no idea where I was. And I remember being in the back of the ambulance. The cop comes, hands the paramedics my phone. And it was one of these things where the paramedic says, "Do you have anybody that you can call?" Of course, I thought I have people that I can call. Call all my family members. Nobody answers. Call them all again. Nobody answers. Then I just decide to tell the paramedic to just start dialing or calling every single number in my contacts list. I had him do that twice. Not a single person answered the phone. And when that happened and they started driving to the hospital, I've never felt more alone in my entire life, ever. And my faith in humanity and everything is still to this day, I don't trust anybody for a lot of reasons because of this. So I get to the hospital. Finally, I don't know who got a hold of some family members, but they start showing up, as I'm in the hospital. Stay overnight, get out the next day, pain meds, the whole 9 yards. I lost everything physically, folks. I couldn't walk for like 2 years after this happened. And I was able to start finally jogging about 3 years after this accident. Multiple surgeries on my body. And the moral of the story here is that the sooner you start rebuilding, the sooner you're going to get back on your feet. And really, when it comes to the financial aspects of this, I was 23 years old, out of college. I had some BS job that I could no longer work. And really, I was living paycheck to paycheck, as a lot of people that age do. And I'll never forget, I was a customer of Wells Fargo at that time for 23 years. I was 23 years old. I was a customer there for 23 years. My mom had opened up a bank account at Wells Fargo like a week after I was born for me. And I'm explaining this situation to Wells Fargo because my accounts, my checking accounts, went negative. My credit went down the tank to like 500 something. I owed $60,000-$70,000 in debt just for medical expenses. Whatever you can name it. Whatever you can name. Credit cards, you start racking up credit card debt. Stuff like that because you still got bills to pay even though you can't walk. So I saw my credit get completely destroyed. My financial situation got completely destroyed. And there is light at the end of this tunnel. These lawsuits and settlements and stuff like that for being in an accident like this, they take years. They take a long time. And this Voyager situation with this bankruptcy thing is going to take a long time. I can almost certainly guarantee you that. Not financial or trading or investment related advice at all. I'm just telling you my story. So once I was completely destroyed financially, there wasn't much I could do. My phone rang 3 times a day from Wells Fargo, from credit card companies that wanted my money, which I didn't have, and they are relentless. Bank accounts were deep in the red. And I couldn't get a job. You got to remember, this is like 2011. The crash of like 2008, 2009 had just happened. There were no jobs anywhere. I couldn't get a job. I stopped applying for jobs after like the 500th application was when I stopped actually counting. And finally, I don't know, probably around my 600th application, I got a job in 2013. And really, that was the start of the end to my suffering. So the second I was able to land that lifeline or that extra job or extra income, I was able to start consolidating my debts, stuff like that. I was able to really start rebuilding my life. Of course, I got the settlement from the car accident. My super lawyer took a cool 33% of it. I shoveled out another 33% to medical bills, all that stuff. I owed my dad 5 figures. I had to pay him back because it was the right thing to do. And I'll never forget, I was at the end of this, I was still left with a very badly damaged body. And financially, I was starting to see things turn around. I was having, during the worst part of the finances and injuries, because these things are happening at the same time. But through the worst of this, I was having panic attacks 3-4 times a day, I would sit in the shower with the shower on an extremely cold temperature because it helped me shake these anxiety and panic attacks and stuff like that. I can't tell you how many times I called the ambulance to go to the hospital because I was having an anxiety attack and I thought that I was going to die. And so the moral of this story is when people say that you may have lost everything financially, but you still have your health, boom, I understand that statement. You could be in this position that I was in. Now, recovery wasn't easy financially, physically, but the thing I learned the most about it was to never trust anybody because I was laying on the side of the road, basically left for dead, hadn't anybody not called for an ambulance for me on that freeway. And so, when we start talking about that, it's just this big old, mind F that you have to get over. You have to start rebuilding your life right now. The longer you wait, the more you're going to think about it, the more depressed you're going to get, possibly. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not an advisor. I'm not anything like that. So, approach your doctors if you need to. Professionals in this industry. Ask them what your best bets are to get back on your feet. Things like that. Just never stop trying to dig yourself out. And like I said, it took me years, folks, years and years to get out of this hole. I'm just trying to see how long this video is going for right now. But it took me years and years to basically get out of this hole. It wasn't an overnight thing. But one of the reasons I work so much, I've got 2.5, 3 full-time jobs. Okay? I own businesses. I work for other people. I work, I've got a 3-year-old too. And I work 100 to 120 hours a week. It just depends on the week. I rarely get an entire day off, but this is the work ethic that evolved out of this very bad situation. And I determined back in 2013-ish, somewhere in there, that I was never going to be put in this situation ever again. And that I was going to work hard to financially free myself through investing and using some of the tools that I had, family members being experienced traders, learning from them, things like that. Everybody's situation is going to be drastically different. So I know there's people out there right now that are just as sad as I was back in, during this, I would call this time that I just described to you the darkest point of my life. It just was. Things get better. You have to work for it in a lot of cases. Salvage what you can and try to build up your little empire that you had going. Try to build up, a community around you that supports you. That is going to be one of the biggest things, especially the Voyager community. They are it's probably one of the strongest communities. I think that the last thing that you guys could do is disband. If you guys go through this together, it is what it is. You've worn this badge of honor together for so long. Don't let these relationships burn up. It's a good time to weed out any negative influences that some of the community members might have, or maybe you want to just go on your own road with a few trusted people that you can talk to, things like that. My DMs are always open after this whole situation happened, and there's a lot of Voyager people that follow my channel. I've just said, if you guys need to talk, I'm not a counselor, not investment advice, anything like that, but I'm happy to just, if you need to say hi, get something off your chest, talk about something, hit me up in the DMs. It's all private. I'd never disclose it to anybody, things like that. So really, folks, when it comes to understanding what you're going through, I'm probably one of the fewer creators that's been there and done that to this extreme, possibly a greater extreme even. And if I can build back, I know that you guys can too. Just really put your mind to it. Come up with a plan to salvage what you can. I don't know if this video is going to help anybody. It's a success story, in my own opinion, about how I went from the deepest part of my life to a flourishing one. And if you would have asked me back in 2011, 2012, 2013, you know, and you would have told me about what I was involved with right now in my life, I would have been so excited. I'm working in Web3. I work for, help. I don't work for, but I create content for Dfinity, Internet Computer. I'm working in Web3. I am doing YouTube. I'm writing articles in crypto magazines. I'm writing articles in Crypto Wendy's white paper. To me, this is just an exciting time for me. And I just want you guys to know that in time, things keep getting better. You just have to work at it. And I've said that a million times by now. Speaking of Crypto Wendy, I was watching one of her live streams yesterday. She has been through it all with the crypto markets. She's been there, done that with practically everything, from what I can tell. One of the reasons I admire her and her so much is that, you know, she's had skin in the game for a long time. Doesn't bullshit people. And one of the things she said yesterday was that she saw this same thing, and I'm not putting words in her mouth or anything like that, so I'm paraphrasing. She was saying something along the lines of, she saw the same thing happen back in like 2018, 19, after those all-time highs and everything slipped into the bear markets. A lot of these exchanges started to fail. And she was saying how a lot of times everybody's exchanges would be like locked up for months on end. So I don't think that this whole Voyager situation is some sort of an overnight fix. I do think that it is going to be some long drawn out process that will be ultimately decided by a court who gets what, even though your funds are in Voyager. I think it's going to come down to some sort of court, especially now that they're in Chapter 11. So with that said, folks, you know, my DMs are open. It's all private. If you need to talk, whatever. I hope this video helps the community. That's all I could ever want to do. I wish everybody in this situation the best of luck coming out of this. Hopefully things turn around. So we'll see you guys all on the next video, and I hope you guys, come out of this okay.